Good afternoon, 4:29 p.m. and we are heading to a place called Mitchie's Wharf. Come on, let's go. So we spent the whole day looking around trying to find the perfect spot. It was interesting because a bit earlier, all this cloud that we can see up here was actually where the sun was setting. It's now moved on, and so we should get a bit of a sunset. So we'll head across here and we'll do our best to capture it. So just setting up my ND filter kit, my leaf filter kit, especially here where we're shooting into the sun. This area here is quite dark, so the exposure is going to be quite different throughout the frame. So by putting the filter kit on it, I'll be able to settle that sky down and bring up more of the detail in the boat shed here. All right, so it looks like we're going to get some good cloud cover just over there. So I've got my leaf filter kit. As you can see, it's a mammoth when it for the 14 to 24mm lens. I think what I'll do first is I'll actually attach it to my tripod. So looking at the skies compared to the foreground is a big difference. So I'm going to start off by using a soft grade 0.9, which is 3 stops of light. So it looks something like that. And I'll put that in the first slot of my filter holder. And just have a look in my viewfinder as I put it in to make sure I'm getting the effect I'm after. I'm at f11 and quite wide on the 14-21. I'm going to probably about 16mm, 17mm. And right now the cloud is just doing some really cool stuff. We've got some nice colour. I don't know if you can see that on that screen there. I've still got some highlights in the very middle of the shot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually do some exposure compensation. So what I do is I press down my exposure comp button. I'm just going to wind it down to -1 to start with and just see how that goes. And I can see I've still got a little bit of flashing highlights, so that's perfect. I could go maybe down to -1.3, and the reason I'm doing that is because all the other parts of the frame I can bring back up in post-production, but you can never save the highlights, and it'll give me the best colour. It's actually looking pretty good. So just setting my focus. What I like to do with my focus is we've got some fish just jumping up there. Got distracted by the fish. What I like to do with my focus is put it into autofocus, and I've actually got my autofocus mark on the pylons there to get the focus happening right here where it's going to be nice and sharp. That way the background may not be completely focused. And then I'll switch it into manual, and that way I know that nothing's going to move. And you know, with that composition now, we've got some beautiful colour happening in the sky. I can just click my remote shutter, which is here, just on my belt loop. So that wireless remote shutter, just making it nice and easy. And everything's looking pretty good. It's actually working out pretty nice. So really not much else I can do except just now it's a waiting game to see what happens with this colour, let the sun do its thing, and you know, I can change the composition slightly just to make things a bit different, but realistically just got to keep shooting now, double checking the exposure. I can see the exposure is really good. One of the things I like to do is always check the histogram to make sure that you're not getting too many of the shadows. With the D810, the shadows are really easy to pull out, so I can see there's actually a line, and it's quite hard to see. There's a line on my histogram before all the pixels are bunched up, so I know I can bring that up in the shadows. The thing is, what I'm not, with this highlight here, I'm making sure I'm not overexposing it. Now the sun's gone down a bit more, I'm going to bring that up to -1 and just shoot that and see what happens. And a good way to check is just go into flashing RGB highlights, and I can see there's a little bit flashing on the horizon, but that's okay. To me, that's acceptable. Won't focus. Focus, focus, focus.
There we
go. So you'll never see that. So tiny. Yeah. Right in there, it's flashing, and that tells me that there's only a very minute part of my image overexposed, and the rest is exposed. As this sun goes down, because that sky is really colouring up, I'm going to bring the the zoom right out. We'll go nice wide shot, get as much of that sky as I can, and I'll have another go. And each time just checking that flashing once again, just a very small piece, right where it's really bright on the bottom of that cloud just above the horizon. That's the only spot that's overexposed. The rest is perfectly exposed. And once again, I can check the histograms and just make sure my pixels aren't bunched up to the left, which they're not, which means I've got a good picture, so it's all good. Wow. Just turn the camera that way, have a look at the sky. Have a look at that sky. How good's that, eh? The colours just coming to life. So just patiently waiting because we've got a human element in my shot that I didn't want, especially just the back end of a person. She's walked off now. And that colour, would be nice if there was, I know I'm being picky, it'd be nice if there was a bit more cloud, so the colour would be a bit more even, but it's actually pretty cool. And just make sure I've got no flashing highlights there. Once again, just a minute amount. I'm going to try and bring it now back to just 0.7 underexposed and see what that does. Oh, it's too much overexposed now, so this is where you've got to be careful. Really monitor your exposure, because if it's overexposed, you'll never fix those pixels. And now it's just waiting as the light changes. It's what it's doing. So you just got to keep waiting, and just as the light changes, keep snapping shots. And I'm sure I'll get a couple of good keepers out of this. Sunset was at 4:51, and it is 4:51. That's one of the good things about winter. I know the boss likes it because, as you know, the boss nags me to go to dinner. And but we're going to be finished early enough now that we're going to be able to go to dinner and a show apparently tonight. The boss has booked some tickets. As the light drops, it's really important to make sure that you just double check all your settings. Things like making sure that you've got your exposure comp right. And I'm going to now adjust mine because that sun really is starting to drop. I'm going to adjust my exposure comp if I can find the button. I just took a photo instead. Here we go. I'm actually going to turn it off for a second and just see what's going on. So I'll take a photo. I'll then just check the RGB highlights by pressing on the Nikon. You just press up on the jog wheel and you can sort of see that we've still got some highlights there. Not many though, because the light's pretty much disappeared. So I'll just drop it back down 1/3 of a stop, and that should be pretty much spot on. Still a little bit there. So, you know, you just got to keep playing with it. The thing you don't want to do is you don't want to have that image overexposing. Now that colour's gone, I might just stick the big stopper on, the black filter, and what that'll do is it'll give me that long exposure. So we'll do that, and then we'll turn the video back on. All right, so quite often I get asked about how do I set my settings for if I'm going to use the big stopper. So I've got the big stopper in here. Okay, so that's the 10 stops of light that stops. So it's like a big, thick sunglasses for the camera. But before you put that on, I'm going to show you quickly what I use. So Lee has a app which you can use with any ND filter. It doesn't have to be a Lee one, but it's the Lee Stopper app. So if I just quickly open that up, and what you do is you take a metering. So let's say I put it into aperture priority right now. I'm at f9 and it's telling me 1/6 of a second, so close enough, 1/8. So it tells me if I put a 10 stop filter on, I need to go to 2 minutes is what I need to have. Okay, so I'll now put the filter on. So I slide that in, and you'll see now that it's gone all wacky. So it's got 30 seconds. So I have to go into my manual mode. So I have to change it to manual, and then I have it in a bulb setting. And now what I'll do, this actually has a timer on it, so you can use the timer on this app. I'll hit the timer, it'll start timing the 2 minutes as soon as I press that start button, and I'll press the shutter button at the same time. So that's now started a 2 minute exposure. And now what I'll do is just wait till the timer finishes, and then I'll let open the shutter back up. Now what you find in a sunset situation is that it actually gets darker during the 2 minutes, and sometimes it's still underexposed, so you've got to be careful. The other thing is in a sunrise situation, it might tell you 2 minutes, but of course it's getting brighter. So sometimes you'll leave it for the 2 minutes and you'll still be overexposed. So you still need to, you know, keep those things in mind as you take your photo. But we'll see how this goes at the end of the 2 minutes, and hopefully it'll be pretty much correct. So we'll see how we go. All right, so in our last 10 seconds, nearly got our 2 minutes done. As soon as it hits 2 minutes, I'll open the shutter back up, or close the shutter. There we go. And let's have a look and see how we went. So you'll see that it's actually quite dark. Now, if I go into the histogram, you'll see it's all bunched up to the left. Now, the reason that happened was because I've still got, you can see 2 minutes, 120 seconds, but because it's been getting darker since I took that photo, the first photo that gave me the reading, it's obviously not bright enough. So we'll do it again. Let's take the big stopper out, just so we can see what's changed. If I go to aperture priority, you'll see now it's gone from 1/8 to 1/4 of a second. Okay, so if I now get the app out, and that's just because the light's dropping all the time. So if I now go to 1/4, see what happens? It's now gone to 4 minutes. Yep. So it's gone to 4 minutes now on 1/4. So if you have a look up here, it's metering at 1/4. So I'm going to have to do a 4 minute exposure. Now the same thing's going to happen, right? If I go for 4 minutes, the light's going to keep dropping. It's not going to drop as fast now. So let's try it. Let's do a 4 minute exposure and we'll see what happens. So I'm going to go back to manual. I'm going to put my big stopper back in. Okay, so let's put that in. I'm going to put my big stopper back in. I'm in bulb mode. I'm going to stay at F9 and I'm going to hold my shutter down. I'm going to let it start. The photo's now started. And now I'm going to press the timer. That'll just give me an extra 10 seconds or so. But we'll see how we go after 4 minutes. Now that light's dropped, we'll see what happens. But anyway, that's pretty much it for this one. Got some cracking shots. Lucky we got some nice colour. If you've enjoyed the video, give it the thumbs up. Of course, head to my website on3legs.com. If you haven't already, go and download yourself my 10 Tips to Better Photos ebook. It's free and it'll help you take better photos. See you next time.